Hey guys, welcome to a new market update video. I'm gonna try to keep it as short and simple as possible on the likes of BTC and ETH mainly, just because we have the elections coming up next week. So we'll have another update before then, but I mean, it's gonna be pretty binary which way we go. I'm assuming we're probably gonna move like 10% up or down depending on who wins. Of course, being up on Trump win and down on a Kamala win. As you know, in the long run, I don't think it would matter too much for the direction we're going in 2025, but I do think the short term should be heavily influenced by who wins, and it's just gonna screw around with any analysis or idea you might have right now because depending on who wins, it will just go one way or the other, and you're basically just betting on who is gonna win. I do feel like the upside on a Trump win is potentially pretty large, also in the short term. The question is if the downside on Kamala win is going to be that deep. So depending on that, you might think, okay, the risk reward could still be worth it, especially seeing Trump is like at least a 60-40 favorite at this point. So I mean, it's yet to be seen. I mean, if you're in spot, I'd say it's not gonna matter for you too much. I mean, you'll look forward next few months or years even, and it's not gonna matter what happens in the first few weeks. If you're trading, of course, be careful because it's gonna get volatile. So, having said that, the doodle is roughly playing out like we broke out. We're holding this as support, and it's kind of bouncing. To be fair, we did have Tetherfat coming in here, which was debunked quite quickly. So it was a fake news article, something from the past. Then we also had the Israeli retaliation, I guess, against Iran, of which they said they wouldn't strike back yet again. So to be fair, that's pretty positive. Of course, this happened during the weekend, well, after the futures were closed. So I'd say this is more of like de-escalation than further escalation. Although we have seen another attack, but we kind of knew that was coming at some point. So the fact it was relatively small, I think, from what I can see, and there's also not going to be any retaliation back again. Makes me hope that hopefully it kind of cools down a bit there in the Middle East, but we'll see. Overall, if it wasn't for the elections, just looking by the chart, I'd say we're gonna head to like all-time rather quickly here, just by how the chart looks. I mean, the trend is up. We finally broke down of this huge channel, and it's basically just a waiting game. But I think many people, and especially big money, is just gonna wait here until the elections because let's say you want to allocate a lot of money, I would also likely wait. Like I'd rather buy like an all-time high break on a Trump win, which is like 10% higher, than potentially buying now and risking him losing, and it's probably gonna drop, and you probably have a lot of time to accumulate lower. Although I don't think it's gonna be like much more than 10%, maybe like high 50s at best, I'd assume. So, with that being said, I think there's money on the sidelines. It's likely very willing to just buy the autumn high breakout if it comes, just to have that certainty. So that's why I also think it can move rather quickly after an election win by Trump in the short term. The This chart, I pulled it up, and I'm not sure when we talked about it, but I think someday I wrote this out, or maybe it was in a stream. I'm not sure. But this doodle has been roughly playing out, funnily enough. I'm pretty sure I drew it back here at the time. I think it was something with us having overextended pretty early on. Like normally we don't break the all-time high until approximately like now in the cycle. So we were ahead with like by like 3 months or so, or sorry, 9 months. And since then we've chopped around, and this is basically what happened. Now, of course, this is something I could see happening. Topping somewhere late 2025, that would be according to like the regular 4 year cycle. Not sure how high it goes, of course. Yeah, I'm purely gonna estimate this based on how the sentiment is, how crazy the market is, and by time. Like, let's say by late 2025 we're at 100k, which would already be really nice, to be honest. um, I'm not gonna stick around to some certain target of like 150 or 200k or whatever, just because that's a target I set back in the day. Because who knows? Like, it really depends on how we move. If it's gonna be a slow grind up, then it can extend for much longer. If, let's say, Trump wins, you shoot up to 200k. Not gonna happen, I think, but let's say that happens within a few months, then it's probably gonna be or the top is probably already going to be in much earlier. And in that case, I'd say, yeah, I mean, you get what I mean. Just it's better to take it from time to time and see where and when you want to cash out. And of course, the easiest way is to just scale out along the way. Just take out small portions. That way, you're not sad if you cash out everything and it keeps going up. But you're also not gonna be like dependent on one level, and you might get front run and you never end up cashing out anything. But roughly, I mean, this, whether it's gonna be 100k or 150k, whatever, would approximately be what I think would be likely from here on out, like 70-ish% drawdown back to this 40k level or something. I think this would roughly make sense looking at how these cycles generally go. Especially if you zoom out a bit. Like, it's not gonna be crazy. And of course, last time around we did break below the last all-time high, which was something we didn't do in previous bear markets, but I don't think that's gonna be too crazy here again, to break back below the previous all-time high, in this case the 69k from 2021, and then bear market somewhere around like 40-50k, and then of course, we'll probably just repeat the thing again as we usually do. But this is a very, very rough estimate. Moving on, total 2 altcoins, kind of just chilling here, just waiting. Not too much happening here. Same with ETH. Needs to break 2.8k for me to get excited. Until then, it's just pretty weak overall. And things like Solana just keep outperforming it. Bitcoin dominance has now closed this big inefficiency. So if there's ever going to be a spot in relatively close proximity where this stalls or this tops out remotely, should be here. Of course, another level was 57, but as you can see, it just keeps grinding higher, higher, higher. Of course, these levels don't make too much sense on Bitcoin dominance, and it's mostly because ETH is just really weak against BTC, which has contributed to a lot of this move. But yeah, let's see. I think one catalyst to turn things around or change things around in the market could, of course, be the elections. I think these things will generally, let's say Trump wins, I think it's going to be pretty positive for regulations and going to be much easier for these US companies and things like DeFi protocols. Just overall, I think the SEC isn't going to be a pain in the ass as much as it is now, which should generally help, especially these US-based companies, and even the likes of like Uniswap, etc. All these companies that got sued before should probably get like a free pass or whatever. Well, not that exactly, but I don't think they're going to have as much trouble operating as they have been so far. Then Solana finally broke out. I mean, we're kind of looking for something like this. Of course, not entirely broken out, but it broke out of this, let's say, this late summer chop, back above the 140-ish level, which was important level from last cycle. And from now on, like in the short term, you have this uptrend. It's now key to break these highs, and after that, you can go for the cycle highs again. But so far, it looks pretty good. Like, it's one of the stronger coins out there, definitely. And yeah, I mean, as long as this stays strong, I think it would just take further market share from ETH, especially now it has finally properly broken out. Like, it has stalled around its previous all-time high for so long, but you can see it now really starts accelerating because, yeah, I mean, Solana breaking out, ETH isn't, so there you go. I was kind of expecting this to go for like one more flush lower initially and then start rising again as the entire market picked back up, but throughout all the choppiness, Solana is finally making a move, so let's see if that sustains. This is also partially because, and we'll get into it, well, we'll do it next, because of this on-chain meme coin meta, which has been well, the meme coin meta itself has kind of seen a resurgence, but it's on the back of these AI meme coins, which you've probably seen these come around. So this thing, don't quote me on the exact details, but this is some kind of LLM. So this Twitter account True Terminal is just like a ChatGPT bot, and it's pushing out all this random content. It's trained on like Reddit and 4chan material, so it's tweeting out all this crazy stuff. And I think some wallet or the developer, some wallet has basically been tied to that account. Some coin got airdropped to it or whatever, and it basically said, okay, this is the coin that's mine or whatever. So that's how it existed. I don't know, the specifics are pretty weird, but all you need to know is this is just there's this AI chatbot which is on Twitter, and this is basically its coin. Of course, it didn't make it itself. There's still a developer that made it, and he owns some percentage, I think, but nothing crazy. And it got funded by Mark Andreessen, the billionaire, by like 50K to set up the liquidity, etc. I think. But yeah, this thing has basically just run from zero to it's like 700 million market cap now in a little over 2 weeks. So that's impressive. I was comparing it to Pepe earlier. It did it roughly at the same pace, and then Pepe ended up by 3 weeks sitting at like 1.5 billion, which would put this at like $1.50 or something. If it were to keep up with the pace from Pepe, which made that run back in early 2023. I don't think it's gonna be too far fetched, honestly. Like the meme coin meta and the AI meta have been so strong this cycle. I don't think that's gonna change until something else resurfaces. And this thing basically being the perfect combination of the two, with also having like unlimited amount of content on its Twitter, which is just really funny and random. And of course, people are gonna get bored by it at one point, but until then, it's just like an unlimited source of content. It crosses basically all the important metas from this cycle, combines them together. There's been a lot of interest from outside of cryptos, seeing how this thing operates and what it's talking about, all that kind of stuff. It made a new meta itself, so there's a lot of these copycat coins or things that do something similar. And usually the leader tends to be the one that's on top. And like, of course, this valuation, it's crazy, but I mean, it's crypto, so I'm not gonna get into it too much. But if we compare it, relatively speaking, to other meme coins, let's say Popcat or whatever, it's still, or Popcat is like twice the value, and it's like, yes, it's the cat coin, it's the main cat coin, but what's gonna be worth more in the end? Just another cat coin that also launched somewhere this cycle, or this thing that made a new entire sector or meta itself, and seeing how much AI is being liked. I don't know. I just think it makes sense, even for the non meme coin enthusiasts. Like I'm not into these things much at all, but this thing makes sense from like the game theory perspective or whatever. I don't know. It's interesting. I'd say keep an eye on it. I'm not running out. It is running much higher. Of course, it has run up a lot in a very short time span. So every now and then you're gonna get these consolidations. You're gonna get these kind of moves. Like it can just move minus 70% in how much was this? Little over a day. So yeah, that's what happens with these new things. If they're strong, they'll keep recovering. But even Pepe, back when it did go to like 1.5 billion market cap, after that, it got the Binance Perps, Binance spot listing, and it topped out for almost a year. Went down like 80 or 90% afterwards, and then it didn't regain those price levels again until like February 2024, which was almost a year later. So yeah, that's what can happen. Even though a coin is good or whatever, or it's a leader in what it does, once price stops going up and like there's no demand, the meta and everything behind it will also just die down just as quickly as we know. The price will lead the narrative. This is interesting now. People are talking about it now. It's gonna get even crazier once it crosses like $1 billion market cap, for example. But once it stops going up, the interest will die down, and so will the price. So that's kind of the life cycle of a meme coin. Moving on, Eigen. Honestly, like I bought some of this somewhere in this $3 price range as a spot holding. I think this is relatively undervalued, seeing its current market cap. Of course, fully diluted valuation is pretty high. It's just that ETH has been so weak, and all these ETH related coins just are even weaker. So I'm probably too early on this. It would need to retake this range for me to really get excited of this potentially making a run. Yeah, I mean, it's not looking great right now. This is kind of like how all these new launches have been going this year. So I'd say don't really touch this until it retakes this range low at like 315 and then see from there. Good one to keep an eye on though, because I think this is one of those coins. If the market improves, especially if ETH somewhat improves, these are the things that can run pretty hard and pretty quickly, and easy to size up on as well. It's listed everywhere, decent market cap, so good to keep an eye on. Spectral, been talking about this on Twitter for quite a while. It has been really strong because this thing basically facilitates these AI agents, which is of course a new meta that came up with the GOAT coin and all these other AI meme coins. So this AI related and especially AI agent related, of course, people are seeing this and now getting or trying to buy into it just to get exposure to the sector or the new meta. I do think there's a good chance we'll fill this inefficiency to like 14-ish dollars. Overall, this was just a very nice rounded bottom, range breakout, retest here even, and up it goes. Not ruling out all-time highs either if the meta sustains. Like, let's say GOAT does run to like $1 billion market cap. I think this will reach its all-time highs as well. Kind of depends how long the meta lasts, but as said at the start of the video, elections in a week, this could completely skyrocket everything or just kill any meta and momentum that there might be on some of these coins. So that's why I still think these things are kind of just chilling and people are waiting until they get more clarity. Tau is one, of course, basically being the AI leader for most of this cycle and especially this latest run-up. But since the new meta with the meme coins, it's kind of just been died down. I think people are looking just for a certain amount of AI exposure. And with now things like GOAT running, they will just take out allocation or whatever from their main AI bags like Tau and whatever. And they will just ape that into those meme coins. Of course, these things would just fluctuate around each other, but for now, there's not enough liquidity or demand to pump everything at once. So people will just rotate from one into the other. And I think that's why this has been pretty weak. It's a decent level here if it can hold. Did sweep the October lows, but does need to hold here. And like, let's say it holds here and starts slowly grinding up. I think this should be good for all-time highs pretty quickly afterwards. But yeah, it needs the entire market for it to kind of hold up and do well. Then lastly, Clearpool. We've basically been looking for a scenario like this, and we're getting it. Like, I mean, I just keep repeating it. This trend up is so clear. It held where it should have, even here, which was important to me because I spoke about this last week when we were trading down here. If it were to fall back below here, wouldn't look too great, as then you have this liquidity swept, you fall back into this range after testing it so often. But it moving up here is pretty good to me, and hope to see this continue up to like the 20 cents region, which would cross the local highs and make yet another higher high. But also here, these coins, they look good now, and I think they'll absolutely explode upon a Trump win and some relief in that case by the market. But any momentum that might be here now could be killed in the short term if elections disappoint the markets, of course. All right, that's pretty much it. For now, it's weekend. We're basically trading at the CME close price, so not expecting too much for the rest of Sunday. And then, yeah, next week we'll see. It's probably going to get volatile, I'm assuming. I also think next weekend itself is going to be volatile. Not counting too much on like the CME gap not opening up with the CME gap, as I think there's like 48 hours or 48 to 72 hours before the elections. I think you'll probably get some decent moves. I don't know, maybe volatility just dies out completely right before, but I think there's going to be some bets made by people right before on the election. So I do think it's going to get volatile from here on out. All right, thank you all very much for watching yet again. I'll see you all next week, and take care. Bye-bye.